Nadine here. Um, just decided to do another stream because this book is really long. Um, and I just have the head to do. Here we go. How's that? That's one way to finish it, I suppose. Um, anyway, it's just the head, so I'm gonna just continue this, and I've got time tonight to just sit and listen to the book and just continue on my merry way. Um, If you have anything to say, just say it. I'll be looking up every once in a while, and I hope you have a wonderful day and enjoy the stream, and you'll see me complete this little gal here. It's probably going to take a while to do probably a couple of streams to take finish the head off and get it, I don't know, there or so. Then take a bit to put the hair on. Not sure what I'm going to do for hair, but, I'll figure that out when I get there, because I don't have a pattern for this. I'm just kind of winging it. Okay, let's get this party started. Get my microphone off. Uh-oh, file not found. What the heck? That's just awful. What the heck is it talking about? File not found. Okay, so we're having some minor technical difficulties. Audiobooks. Audiobox. The folder is empty. What the hell? Why the heck is my audiobox? LibriVox. Oh, that's because I'm on the wrong one. Gee whiz. The Divine Comedy. Nope, that's the wrong one. I've got two different readings. One's a blah 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 blah. 42. One's a dramatic reading and one's just a reading. Purgatory. '41 to 43. Yeah, that says 41. Sorry,
Section 41 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 7. Antipurgatory, the Vale of Flowers. Prince's intent on earthly glory.
After their words of greeting, dignified and glad, had 3 and 4 times been repeated, Sordello, drawing back, said,
Who are ye?
Or ever yet the spirits, who deserve to rise to God, were toward this mount directed? My bones were buried by Octavian's order. Virgil am I, and through no other guilt did I lose heaven than through not having faith.
'Twas thus my leader thereupon replied, like one who sudden sees before him aught he wonders at, and as he says, it is, and no it's not, believes and disbelieves. Such did the former seem, and then his head he bowed, and humbly turning back to him, embraced him where inferior men take hold.
Oh, glory of the Latins!
Said he then,
Through whom our language showed what it could do. Eternal honour of my native town, what merit or what grace shows thee to me? Tell me, if I deserve to hear thy words, if thou from hell art come, or from what cloister?
Through all the circles of the woeful realm,
he answered him,
'twas not for doing aught, but for not doing, I lost the sight of that exalted sun thou longest for, and which was known by me too late. There is a place below, not sad because of pain, but only gloom, where moans sound not as wailings, but are merely sighs. There with those little innocents I dwell, who, not delivered yet from human guilt, were bitten by the teeth of death. And there with those I dwell, who did not clothe themselves with the 3 holy virtues, but who knew the others without vice, and practised all. But give us, if thou know and can, some sign whereby the sooner we may reach the place where purgatory hath its real beginning.
No fixed place is assigned us.
He replied,
I may go upward and around. I'll join thee, and be thy guide as far as I can go. But see already how the day declines, and one at night cannot ascend. It hence were well to think of some fair resting place. Here to the right are souls that dwell apart. If thou permit me, I will lead thee to them, and not without delight will they be known.
How then is this?
was answered.
Should one wish to mount by night, would some one hinder him? Or would one not ascend through lack of power?
Then with his finger good Sordello marked the ground, and,
See,
he said,
when once the sun is gone, thou couldst not even cross this line, though not because aught else than gloom of night would hinder one from climbing. That it is puzzles the will with impotence. One could, however, downward go again therewith, and walking o'er the hillside, wander round while still the horizon kept the day confined.
My lord then said, as if in wonder lost,
Do thou then lead us thither, where thou saidst that one well waiting can enjoy himself.
But little had we gone away from there, when I perceived the hill was hollowed out, as here on earth our hillside valleys are.
Thither,
That shade said,
we'll betake ourselves, where of itself the hillside forms a lap, and there will we await the coming day.
a winding path there was, nor steep nor level, which led us to a border of the dell, where more than half away the hillside falls. Gold and fine silver, scarlet and white lead, indigo blue, woods clear and shining brown, and green of emeralds when newly flaked, would each in hue be vanquished by the grass and flowers found growing in that bosomed dell, as by the greater vanquished is the less. Nature not only had been painting there, but with the fragrance of 1,000 scents was making up a blend unknown on earth. Here, seated on the grass among the flowers, Salve Regina singing, souls I saw, who for the dell could not be seen outside.
Before the waning sunlight nest itself,
Began the Mantuan who had guided us.
desire me not to lead you among these. Much better from this border shall ye learn to know the acts and faces of them all, than greeted among them in the dale below. The one that sitteth highest up, and seems to have neglected what he should have done, and with his mouth joins not the other's songs, was Emperor Rudolph, he who might have healed the wounds that so left Italia dead, that by another she reviveth late. He who appears to cheer him ruled the land where rise the waters which the Moldau gives the Elbe, and the Elbe gives the sea. Named Ottokar he was, in swaddling clothes, far better than is Wenceslas his son, on whom a bearded man feed lust and ease. That small-nosed man, who close in council seems with him that hath so kind a countenance, died fleeing and disflowering the lily. Look at him yonder, how he smites his breast, and see the other one, who for his cheek hath sighing made a cushion of his hand. Father and father-in-law of France's bane, they know the latter's foul and vicious life, hence comes the sorrow that so pierces them. The one who so large-limbed appears, and joins in song with him who hath the manly nose, was girded with the cord of every worth, and if the youth who seated is behind him had following after him remained as king, worth would indeed have gone from vase to vase, which of the other heirs cannot be said. The kingdoms James and Frederick hold, but none is owner of a better heritage. Seldom doth human righteousness ascend among the branches. This is willed by him who gives it, that of him it may be asked. My words concern the large-nosed man no less than the other, Peter, who is singing with him, whence both Apulia and Provence are grieved. That plant is as inferior to its seed, as of her husband Constance still vaunts more than Beatrice and Margaret do of theirs. Behold the king, known for his simple life, Henry of England, seated there alone, he in his branches better issue hath. He that among them lower on the ground is sitting and looks up is Marquis William. for whom both Alexandria and her war make Montferrat and Canavese weep.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 7. Section 42 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 8. Antipurgatory, the Vale of Flowers, Princes intent on earthly glory, the Serpent.
'Twas now the hour which homeward turns the longing, and melts the heart of those that sail the sea, the day they've said good-bye to tender friends, and thrills with love the pilgrim newly sped, if from afar he hear a tolling bell that seems to mourn the slowly dying day. When I began to render hearing vain, and of those souls watch one who, risen up, was asking for attention with his hand. He joined his palms, and raising them on high, turned toward the east his eyes with steadfast gaze, as if to God he said, I heed naught else. Ere daylight fadeth issued from his mouth with such devoutness, and with notes so sweet, that I was made unmindful of myself. Thereat the others sweetly and devoutly followed that soul, and sang the whole hymn through, fixing their gaze upon the spheres above. Sharpen thine eyes here, reader, for the truth, for now its veil is certainly so thin that easy is the passage into it. I saw that army of the gentle-born gazing on high in silence after this, as if in expectation, pale and meek, and issuing from above, and coming down, 2 angels with 2 fiery swords I saw, which, broken off, were of their points deprived. As green they were as little new-born leaves, and clothed with garments which, behind them trailed, were stroked and fanned by verdant plumes. One came and poised somewhat above us, while the other alighted on the hillside opposite, so that the people there remained between. I well perceived that golden was their hair, but on their faces vision went astray, as would a power confounded by excess.
From Mary's bosom both of them are come,
Sordello said,
to guard this sheltered vale against the serpent, which will soon arrive.
Hence I, who knew not by what path, turned round, chilled through with fear, and to the trusted shoulders drew closely back. Sordello thereupon began,
And now among the mighty shades let us descend, and we will speak with them. Greatly will they be pleased to see you here.
Only 3 steps, I think, did I go down, and was below. Then one I saw who looked at me alone as if he wished to know me. The air had for some time been growing dark, but not so much as, 'tween his eyes and mine, not to reveal what it concealed before. Toward me he came, and I toward him advanced. Noble Judge Nino, when I saw that not among the damned thou wast, how glad I was. No greetings fair were left unsaid between us, and then he asked,
How long ago didst thou o'er the far waters reach the mountain's foot?
Oh, I exclaimed, across the fields of woe I came this morn, and in the first life am, though by thus going I'll the other win. When once my answer had been heard, Sordello and he drew back, like people suddenly perplexed. The first to Virgil turned, the other to one who there was seated, crying out,
Get up, Corrado! Come and see what God hath as a favour willed.
Then turned toward me.
By that rare gratitude thou owest him, who hides his primal why in such a way that there's no fording it. When thou art past the wide waves, ask my Joan to pray for me, whereto the innocent replies are given. I think her mother loves me now no more, for those white wimples hath she laid aside, which she, poor soul, must needs want back again. Through her one understands with greatest ease how long the fire of love in woman lasts, unless rekindled oft by sight and touch. The viper which conducts the Milanese afield will never make as beautiful a tomb for her as would Galura's cock.
These were the words he used, his countenance marked with the impress of that righteous zeal which burneth in the heart with temperate flame. My greedy eyes now sought the sky alone, and only there, where slowest are the stars, as nearest to its axle is a wheel. My leader then,
What art thou looking at up there, my son?
And I, at those 3 torches wherewith the pole on this side wholly burns. Then he,
The 4 bright stars which thou this morn didst see are low down on the other side, and these have risen there where those were then.
While he was speaking thus, Sordello drew him aside, and saying,
Yonder see our foe,
lifted his finger up to have him look. On that side where a little hollowed vale hath no defence, a snake there was like that, perhaps, which gave the bitter fruit to Eve. On through the grass and flowers the wicked reptile glided, and turning back its head at times, was licking like a beast that smooths itself. I did not see, and therefore cannot tell how the celestial falcons gan to move, but both I clearly saw, when once in motion. When cleft by their green wings it heard the air, the serpent fled, and back the angels turning, regained their posts above with equal flight. The shade, who, when he called him, to the judge had closely drawn, throughout the whole assault had not one moment loosed his gaze from me.
So may the lantern leading thee above find in thy will the wax that is required for one to reach the enamelled green on high.
He thus began.
If thou of Valdimagra or of its neighbouring land dost know true news, tell it to me, who once was mighty there. Corrado Malaspina I was called. I'm not the elder, but from him descended. I bore my race the love which here I cleansed.
Oh, said I then to him, I've never been in your domains, but where throughout all Europe dwelleth a man who knows them not? The fame which honoureth your house proclaims its lords, proclaims its district, so that even he knows of them who hath never been there yet. I swear to you, so may I go on high, that of the glorious use of purse and sword your honoured race doth not despoil itself. Nature and use so favour it, that howe'er the guilty head distort the world, alone it goeth straight, and scorns the evil path. And he,
Now go, for lo, the sun shall not 7 times on that bed rest him which the ram now covers, and with all 4 feet bestrides, ere this thy courteously expressed opinion shall in the middle of thy head be nailed with greater nails than words of other men, unless the course of doom decreed be stayed.
End of Purgatorio Canto 8. Section 43 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio Canto 9. Antipurgatory, the Vale of Flowers, Dante's First Dream, the Gate of Purgatory.
already was old Titan's concubine whitening upon the Orient's balcony, outside the arms of her sweet paramour. Already was her forehead shining bright with gems arranged according to the shape of that cold beast, which smites one with its tail. And night had, of the steps wherewith she climbs, already taken 2 where we were then, and now the 3rd was lowering its wings. When I, who had somewhat of Adam in me, o'ercome with sleep, reclined upon the grass, on which all 5 of us were sitting then, near morning, at the hour in which the swallow begins to sing her melancholy lays, perchance in memory of her earliest woes, and when, much more a pilgrim from the flesh, and less imprisoned by its thoughts, our mind well nigh prophetic in its vision is. An eagle in a dream I seemed to see suspended in the sky, with plumes of gold and wings outspread, intent on swooping down. And it appeared to me that I was where his friends were left behind by Ganymede, when to the highest council he was raised. I thought within myself, perhaps this bird is wont to strike but here, and from elsewhere, perhaps, disdains to lift one with its claws. Then, having wheeled a while, it seemed to me that terrible as lightning it came down, and bore me up as far as to the fire. There it and I both seemed to burn together, and so intense was that imagined burning, my sleep was broken of necessity. Achilles roused himself no differently, turning around him his awakened eyes, nor knowing in what region he might be, when sleeping in her arms his mother took him away from Chiron to the isle of Syros, from which the Greeks removed him afterwards. Than I aroused myself, when from my face sleep fled away, and death-like pale I turned, like one who freezes when o'ercome by fright. Only my comforter was at my side, and now the sun was higher than 2 hours, and toward the open sea my face was turned.
Be not afraid.
My lord then said to me,
Be reassured, for we are faring well. Restrain not, but expand thine every power. At Purgatory art thou now arrived. Behold the cliff there, which encloses it. Behold the entrance where it broken seems. Just now, when, in the dawn preceding day, thy soul was sleeping in thee on the flowers, wherewith the place down yonder is adorned, a lady came and said,
I am Lucia. Allow me to take up this sleeping man. I shall assist him thus upon his way.
Sordello and the other noble forms remained. She took thee, and when daylight dawned, hither came up, and in her footprints I. She laid thee here, and first her lovely eyes revealed to me that opened entrance. Then both she and sleep together passed away.
like one who, when in doubt, is reassured, and into comfort turns his fear when once the truth has been disclosed to him, I changed. And when my leader, wholly freed from care, beheld me, upward o'er the cliff he moved, and I behind him followed toward the height. Reader, thou surely seest how I exalt my subject. Therefore be thou not surprised if I support it now with greater art. Nearer we drew, and were in such a place, that where at first there seemed to be a break, just like a fissure that divides a wall, I saw a gate, and under, to approach it, 3 steps of different colour each, and then a keeper, who as yet said not a word. And as I opened more and more mine eyes, I saw him sitting on the upper step, such in his face that I endured him not, and in his hand he had a naked sword, which so reflected upon us its rays, that toward him oft I turned my eyes in vain.
Say what it is you wish from where you are.
He then began,
and where your escort is. Beware lest coming up should do you harm.
A heavenly lady, of these things aware,
my teacher answered him,
said unto us just now, Go thither, yonder is the gate.
And unto good may she advance your steps.
The courteous keeper of the gate resumed,
Come forward, therefore, unto these our stairs.
Made of white marble was the first great step to which we came, so polished and so smooth, I mirrored me therein as I appear. The second step, darker than purple black, was of a rough and calcined kind of stone, cracked lengthwise and across. The third, which rests in massive shape above it, seemed to me to be of porphyry, as flaming red, as blood appears when spurting from a vein. Upon this last God's angel held both feet, sitting upon the threshold, which to me appeared to be a rock of adamant. Up over those 3 steps my leader then drew me along with my good will, and said,
Humbly request him to undo the lock.
Devoutly at his holy feet I cast me. I begged that of his mercy he would open. But first I smote upon my breast 3 times. Then with his sword's sharp point he traced 7 P's upon my brow, and told me,
See thou to it, that, when inside, thou wash away these wounds.
Ashes, or earth when excavated dry, would with his garment of one colour be. And from beneath it he drew forth 2 keys. One was of gold, the other silver was. First with the white, and after with the yellow, he so did to the gate that I was pleased.
Whenever one of these keys faileth so, that in the lock it doth not rightly turn,
said he to us,
this passage opens not. More precious is the first, and yet the other, ere it unlock, much skill and judgment needs, for it is that one which unties the knot. Peter, from whom I hold them, bade me err, rather than opening, than in keeping closed, provided folk fell prostrate at my feet.
He pushed the holy portal's door thereat, and said to us,
Go in, but I inform you that he who looks behind returns outside.
And when that sacred gateway's folding doors, which were of strong resounding metal made, were on their iron hinges turned around, Tarpeia roared not so, nor proved so shrill, when good Metellus was removed from her, because of which she afterwards kept lean. I turned to heed its first resounding tones, and "Thee we praise, O Lord," I seemed to hear in voices mixed with those delightful sounds. What I was hearing made upon me then just the impression one is wont to get when people with an organ sing, for now the words are heard, and now again are not.
End of Purgatorio Canto 9. Section 44 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio Canto 10. Purgatory, the first ring. Pride. Instances of humility. The expiation of pride.
When past the threshold of the gate we were, whose use the evil love of souls impairs, because it makes the crooked path seem straight, 'twas by its sound I knew that it had closed. And, had I turned mine eyes in its direction, what would have fittingly excused my fault? We mounted through a fissure in the rock, which moved about to this side and to that, as moves a wave that flees and draweth near.
A little skill must here be used by us,
my leader then began,
in keeping close, now here, now there, to the receding side.
This caused our steps to be so slow and short that to her bed the waning moon had gone to rest herself again ere we had issued forth from that needle's eye. But when set free we were, and in the open up above, where back the mountain's side recedes, I, weary, and both of us uncertain of our way, stopped short upon a level place up there, more lonely than our roads through desert lands. From where its margin borders on the void, up to the foot of that high-rising bank, would measure thrice a human body's length. And far as e'er mine eye could wing its flight, now on the right, and now upon the left, such did this girding ledge appear to me. Our feet had not been moving on it yet, when I perceived the bank surrounding it, which, being perpendicular, could not be climbed. White marble was, and so adorned with carvings, that not only Polycletus, but nature too, would there be put to shame. The angel who to earth came with the word of peace, which, wept for during many years, had after its long closure opened heaven, appeared before us there in gentle mien, sculptured so truthfully, it did not seem that he could be an image that is dumb. One would have sworn that he was saying, "Hail!" for she was there portrayed in effigy, who turned the key that opened love on high, and in her mien and acts she had the words, "Behold the handmaid of the Lord," impressed as clearly as a figure stamped in wax.
"Keep not thy mind on one place only fixed,"
my gentle teacher said, who had me there on that side of him where one has his heart. I therefore moved my eyes, and further on than Mary, on the side where him I had, who urged me to go on, I then beheld another story graven in the rock. Passing by Virgil therefore I drew near, so that it might be set before mine eyes. Cut in the marble there the cart and oxen were drawing up the holy ark, which made men dread a charge not given them in trust. People in front appeared, and all of them, forming 7 choirs, made one of my 2 senses say no, and the other one say yes, they sing. So too, by reason of the incense smoke, which there was pictured forth, my eyes and nose became discordant as to yes and no. The humble psalmist there, with loins girt up, came dancing on, before the blessed vessel, and doing so was more and less than king. And Michal, opposite to this portrayed, was from a palace window looking down, as would an angry woman filled with scorn. From where I was, I onward moved my feet, that I might closely note another tale, which after Michal gleamed upon me white. The glorious action of that Roman prince was storied here, whose worth moved Gregory to win his mighty triumph. I refer to Emperor Trajan. At his bridal stood a widow who in tears showed signs of grief. The space around him there seemed trampled down and thronged with horsemen, while above his head eagles, it seemed, upon a field of gold were fluttering in the wind. Among all these the sorrowing woman seemed to say,
"My lord, avenge me for the slaying of my son, which breaks my heart."
And he to answer her,
"Wait now till I return."
And she, like one whom sorrow makes impatient, said,
"But what, my lord, if thou shouldst not return?"
And he,
"That one will do it who shall hold my place."
"How shall another's goddess help thy case?
She answered him,
If thou forget thine own.
Then he,
Now be thou comforted, for needs must I perform my duty ere I leave. Justice so wills, and pity keeps me here.
he to whose vision naught was ever new, created this seen language, new to us, since not found here on earth, while with delight I looked upon the pictures of such great humilities, which for their Maker's sake are also dear to see.
On this side, lo, much people come, but slow the steps they take.
The poet murmured.
Toward the grades above, these souls will send us forward on our way.
Mine eyes, intent on gazing, to behold new things for which with eagerness they long, in turning toward him were not slow to move. Yet I do not have thee, reader, shrink dismayed from thy good purposes, through hearing how God wills that what is due to be paid. Heed not the nature of the torment, think of what comes after. Think that at the very worst, beyond the judgment day it cannot go. Then I began, that teacher which toward us I see advancing does not look like people, nor know I what, my sight is so deceived. And he to me,
Their torment heavy nature so bows them toward the ground, that my eyes too struggled therewith at first. But steadily gaze there, and disentangle with thine eyes what underneath those stones is coming on. Thou now canst see how each one smites himself.
O ye proud Christians, sad and weary creatures, who, sick in mental vision, put your trust in backward moving steps, perceive ye not that worms we are, created but to form the angelic butterfly, which flies unscreened to judgment? Why then is it that your mind soars up in pride, since ye are, as it were, defective insects, even as is a worm, in which formation is not yet complete? As to hold up a ceiling or a roof, in lieu of corbel, one perceives at times a human figure joining knees to breast, which out of unreality gives birth to real distress in him who sees it. Such seemed these to me, when I had given good heed. They were in truth both more and less bowed down, as each had more or less upon his back. But he that in his acts most patient was, seemed to say, weeping, I can bear no more.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 10. Section 45 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 11. Purgatory, the first ring. Pride. The Lord's Prayer. The proud.
Our Father, thou that in the heavens dost dwell, not circumscribed, but for the greater love thou hast for what thou madest first on high,
let both thy name and worth be given praise by every creature, even as it is meet that to thy loving spirit thanks be given.
And may thy kingdom's peace come down to us, since we cannot attain it of ourselves, for all our striving, save it also come.
As gladly of their wills thine angels make a sacrifice to thee, singing all hail, so likewise gladly may men do with theirs.
Give us this day our daily spirit food, without which, through this bitter wilderness, he backward goes, who onward toileth most.
And as we pardon every one the wrong we've suffered, of thy mercy do thou us forgive, regarding not what we deserve.
Our virtue, which is easily overcome, test thou not through our ancient enemy, but set us free from him, who tempted so.
This is last request, dear Lord. It is not indeed made for ourselves, who need not make it here, but is for their sake who behind us stayed.
Thus praying good speed for themselves and us, those shades beneath a burden went their way, not unlike that whereof one dreams at times, unequally tormented, all of them, and weary o'er the first ring round and round, purging away the world's defiling mists. If good things there be always said for us, what can be said and done on their behalf down here, by those whose will is rooted well? Surely one ought to help them wash away the stains they brought with them, that they may issue, cleansed and unburdened, to the starry spheres.
Pray, so may pity and justice speedily unburden you, that ye may move your wings, and raise yourself according to your wish. Show us on which hand lies the shortest way to reach the stairs, and, be there more than one, teach us the pass that hath the gentlest slope, for, owing to the load of Adam's flesh, which clothes his spirit, he who with me comes is slow in climbing, though against his will.
As to the words which in reply they said to those which he, whom I was following, spoke, it was not evident from whom they came. But this was said:
Come with us on the right, along the bank, and ye shall find the pass, which may be climbed by one that's still alive. And were I not prevented by the stone, which tames my haughty neck, and forces me to keep my face bowed down, at this man here, who liveth still and telleth not his name, I'd look, to see if he's one I know, and stir his pity for this heavy load. Latin I was, and born to a great Tuscan. Guglielmo Aldobrandesco was my father. I know not if you ever knew his name. My forebears' ancient blood and noble deeds caused me to be so arrogant that I, unmindful of our common mother, Earth, held every man in scorn to such extent I died for it, as well know Siena's folk and every child in Campagnatico. I am Umberto, nor to me alone doth this work ill, for pride hath with itself drawn all my kin into calamity. And here, for this, must I needs bear this load among the dead, till God be satisfied, since I among the living bore it not.
Listening, I bowed my face, and one of them, not he who had been speaking, writhed around under the burden which was hampering him, and, having seen and recognized me, called, and kept his eyes with effort fixed on me, who, as I went along with them, was stooping. Then, "Oh," said I, "art thou not Oderisi, the glory of Agobio and the art which in Paris is called illuminating?"
"Brother,"
said he,
"more smiling are the parchments which Franco Bolognese paints. The glory is now all his, and only partly mine. Because of that great longing to excel, whereon my heart was set, I certainly would not have been so courteous while I lived. Here is the forfeit paid for pride like this, nor should I be here yet, had it not been that, while I still could sin, I turned to God. O empty glory of our human powers! How short a time green lasts upon its top, unless uncultured ages overtake it. Once Cimabue thought that he would hold the field in painting, yet the cry is all for Giotto now, hence that one's fame is dark. Thus hath one Guido taken from the other the glory of our tongue, and he is born, perhaps, who from the nest will banish both. Worldly repute is but a breath of wind, which cometh now from here and now from there, and shifts its name because its quarter shifts. What greater fame shalt thou have, if when old thou quit thy flesh, than hadst thou died ere pap and chink were dropped, 1,000 years from now? For that, if to eternity compared, is shorter than the twinkling of an eye is to the sky's most slowly moving sphere. All Tuscany proclaimed the fame of him who walks so slowly on the road before me, yet hardly is a whisper of him left in Siena now, whose governor he was, what time the rage of Florence was destroyed, which then as haughty was, as abject now. Your worldly fame is like the hue of grass, which comes and goes, and he discolours it through whom it springs up tender from the ground.
And I, thy true speech heartening me with good humility, thou prick'st my swollen pride. But who is he of whom thou spokest just now?
That,
he replied,
is Provençal Salvani, And here he is, because presumptuously he brought all Siena under his control. Thus hath he gone, and without rest he goes, ere since he died. Who yonder dares too much, in satisfaction pays such coin as this.
And I then, if the spirit who delays before repenting till the verge of life abides below and cometh not up here, unless good prayers assist him, till as long a time be past as he had been alive, wherefore hath this man's coming been vouchsafed?
When in his greatest glory,
he replied,
all shame removed, he freely took his stand in Siena's Campo, and there, to free a friend suffering in Charles's prison, he brought himself to quake in every vein. I'll say no more, and know that what I say is darkly spoken. But so, ere long, will thine own neighbours act, that thou'lt be able to interpret it. This deed of his relieved him from those bounds.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 11. Section 46 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 12. Purgatory, the First Ring. Pride. Instances of punished pride. The Angel of Humility.
With equal steps, like oxen going yoked, I went along beside that burdened soul as long as my dear pedagogue allowed. But when he said,
Leave him, and go thou on, for here 'tis well that each should urge his bark with sail and oars as much as e'er he can,
I straightened me as much as walking called for, although my thoughts kept humble and depressed. On had I moved, and in my teacher's steps was following willingly, and both of us were showing now how light of step we were, when
Downward turn thine eyes,
he said to me,
Well would it be to calm thee on thy way, that thou shouldst see the bed thy souls are treading,
as over those that neath them buried lie, that they may be recalled to people's minds, tombs level with the ground the record bear of what they were before, whence there they oft are wept for, through the prick of memory, which spurs to grief the pitiful alone. Even so I saw engraved in sculpture here, though finer in respect to workmanship, as much as from the mount juts out as path. I saw on one side him who once was made nobler by far than any other creature fall like a flash of lightning down from heaven. I saw Briareus on the other side, pierced by an arrow from the sky, lie prone and heavy on the ground with mortal cold. I saw Apollo, Mars I saw, and Pallas, as still in armour round their sire they stood, gazing upon the giant's scattered limbs. I saw great Nimrod neath his mighty work, dumb with confusion, as he watched the folk who once were proud with him on Sheena's plain. O Niobe, with what sad eyes I thee saw pictured forth in stone, between thy children, the 7 and 7 thy dead upon the road. O Saul, how plainly there on thine own sword didst thou seem dead upon Gilboa's mount, which felt thereafter neither rain nor dew. O mad Arachne, thee I saw, as when already half a spider thou wast sad amid the tatters of thy fatal work. O Rehoboam, not a threat seems now thy face, but terror-stricken, as away a chariot bears thee, lest thou be pursued. It showed, moreover, that hard pavement did, how costly once Alcmaeon caused his mother's unlucky ornament to seem to her. It showed how, in the temple's walls, his sons cast themselves on Sennacherib, and how, when he was dead, they there abandoned him. It showed the slaughter and the cruel woe wrought by Tomiris, when she said to Cyrus, With blood I fill thee, that didst thirst for blood. It showed too how the Assyrians took to flight, routed, when Holofernes had been killed, and also what was of that slaughter left. I saw proud Troy in ashes and in caves. O Ilion, how degraded and how vile it showed thou wast, the image there perceived. What master, or of brush or graving tool, could reproduce the shadows and the features, which there would cause all cultured minds to wonder. The dead seemed dead, the living seemed alive. Whoever saw the real, no better saw than I then did what I was treading on, as long as bowed I walked. Be ye then proud, and go with haughty looks, ye sons of Eve, nor bow your heads to see your evil path. More of the mountain had we circled now, and of the sun's course far more had we spent, than my not disengaged mind had supposed, when he who always walked attentively ahead of me began,
Lift up thy head. The time for going thus absorbed is past. See there an angel who is making ready to come toward us. See how the sixth handmaiden returns now from the service of the day. With reverence adorn thine acts and face, that he may now be pleased to send us up. Think that this day will never dawn again.
So well accustomed was I to his warning, that I should never let my time be lost, that on this theme he could not darkly speak. Toward us the lovely creature was advancing, arrayed in white, and in his countenance such as when trembling seems the morning star. His arms he opened, then he oped his wings, and said to us,
Come, nearby are the steps, and going up is easy after this.
Only a few to this announcement come. O human race, why, born for upward flight, fallest thou so before a little wind? He led us on to where the rock was cut, and there my forehead with his wings he stroked, and promised that my passage would be safe. As on the right hand to ascend the mount, where seated is the church, which dominates the well-ruled town o'er Rubaconte's bridge, the slope's bold flight is broken by the stairs constructed in an age when choir and stave were safe. So likewise doth the bank relax, which from the next ledge here quite steeply falls, but closely on each side the high rock rubs. While turning thither we were on our way, voices sang, in such a way as words could not describe. Alas, how different are the passers here from those in hell! For one up here goes in with songs, but there below with frightful wails. We now were climbing up the holy stairs, and lighter far I felt than formerly I seemed to be, when on the level ground. I hence said, Teacher, say what heavy thing has been removed from me, that as I walk I almost feel no weariness at all. He answered,
When the peas which still remain almost extinct upon thy brow are quite erased, as one is now, thy feet will so be conquered by good will, that they will feel not only no fatigue, but it will be a pleasure to them to be upward urged.
I then did as do those who go about with something on their head they know not of, till others' gestures cause them to suspect, whereat their hand assists in ascertaining, searches and finds, and so performs the work which cannot be accomplished by their sight. And with my right hand's fingers spread I found that only 6 the letters were, which he who held the keys had o'er my temples cut. On seeing which my leader smiled with joy.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 12. Section 47 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 13. Purgatory, the Second Ring. Envy. Instances of generosity. The envious.
We now were at the summit of the stairs, where for the second time is cut away the mount, ascent of which frees one from sin. And there a cornice, like the first one, girds the hillside round about, save that its arc more quickly curves. There is no shaded carving apparent here, nor is there any mark. The bank seems bare, as also seems the path, with but the livid colour of the rock.
If we wait folk here of whom to ask our way,
the poet argued,
I'm afraid our choice will be, perhaps, delayed too long.
Then on the sun he fixed his steadfast eyes, made of his right the centre for his motion, and turned the left side of himself around.
O thou sweet light, with confidence in whom I enter this new path, conduct us thou,
he said,
as one should be conducted here. Thou warm'st the world, and on it thou dost shine. If aught else urge not to the contrary, thy rays at all times ought to be our guides.
Already had we gone as far up there as here on earth is reckoned for a mile, in little time because of ready will, when, flying toward us, there were spirits heard, who, though unseen, were to the board of love uttering their courteous calls. The voice which first passed flying said aloud,
"They have no wine,"
and then behind us kept repeating it, and ere because of having moved away it could be heard no more, another passing cried,
"I'm Orestes."
Nor did that one linger. What are these voices, father? Said I then, and even while I was asking, lo, a third which said,
Love those from whom ye've ill received.
The kindly teacher then,
This circle whips the fold of envy, hence the scourge's cords are drawn from love. The curb will probably give forth a sound the contrary of this. In my opinion, I believe thou'lt hear it before the pass of pardon thou attain. But keenly through the air address thy gaze, and thou'lt see people on ahead of us, who seated are, and each against the cliff.
Then wider than before I oped mine eyes. I looked ahead, and shades I saw, with cloaks not differing from the colour of the stone. And when a little further on we were, I heard one crying,
Mary, pray for us.
And cries to Michael, Peter, and all the saints. Nor do I think there walks on earth today a man so hard that he would not be pierced by sympathy for what I then perceived. For after I had drawn so near to them that what they did with clearness came to me, tears from my eyes were drawn by bitter grief. Covered they seemed to me with coarse haircloth, and one sustained the other with his shoulder, while all of them were by the bank sustained. Even thus the blind, in want of livelihood, at pardons stand to beg for what they need, and one upon the other bows his head that pity may be speedily aroused, not merely by the sound of what they say, but by their aspect, which no less implores. And as the sun availeth not the blind, so to the shades, whereof I spoke just now, the sky's light willeth not to grant itself. Because an iron band runs through, and sows the eyelids of them all, as with wild hawks one does, since otherwise they'd not keep still. To me it seemed an outrage that, unseen, I should see others as I walked along. I therefore turned to my wise counsellor. He well knew what the dumb man wished to say, and therefore waited not for me to ask, but,
Speak,
he said.
Be brief and to the point.
Virgil on that side of the corner sledge was coming on with me, whence one can fall, because it wreathes itself with no bank there. On the other side I had those zealous shades, who through the horrid seams were pressing so their tears, that they were bathing both their cheeks. Turning to them, I thus began, O people, who certain are of seeing that high light, which your desire hath for its only object. So melt grace soon the scum upon your conscience, that memory's stream may through it clearly flow. Tell me, for grateful will it be to me and pleasing, if there is among you here a soul that Latin is. It will be well for him, perhaps, if I should come to know it.
O brother mine, we both are citizens of one true city, but thou meanest one who, while a pilgrim, lived in Italy?
It seemed to me that this I heard for answer a little further on than where I was. I therefore let myself be heard much further. Among the rest I saw a shade which seemed expectant in its looks, and if one ask, how so, held up its chin as do the blind. Spirit, said I, that dost subdue thyself, that thou mayest climb, if she that didst reply, make thyself known to me by place or name.
Sienese I was,
she answered,
and with these cleanse here my guilty life, and pray to him with tears, that he may lend himself to us. Though called sapia, sapient was I not, for I was far more glad of others' harm than I of my good fortune ever was. And that thou mayest not think that I deceive thee, even as I tell thee, hear how mad I was. Once my year's arch was on its downward course, when with their foes my fellow citizens were joined in battle near the town of Colle. I prayed to God for that which he had willed. When, routed there, they took the bitter path of flight, I felt, on seeing them pursued, a joy unequalled by all other joys. I therefore upward turned my daring face and cried to God, I fear thee now no more, as doth the blackbird at the least fair weather. When I was at the end of life, I longed for peace with God, but not yet would my debt have been diminished by repentance here, had it not been that Pietro Pettinaggio, who of his charity was grieved for me, was mindful of me in his holy prayers. But who art thou, that askest of our state while going on, and hast thine eyes unclosed, as I believe, and dost, while breathing, talk?
Mine eyes will yet be taken from me here, but not for long, said I, for they have not offended much by being turned by envy. Far greater is the fear wherewith my soul is filled of that tormenting pain below, for even now the load there weighs upon me. And she,
Who then led thee to us up here, if to return below thou think?
and I, he that is with me here and speaketh not. But I am living. Therefore ask of me, elected spirit, if thou'dst have me move my mortal feet in thy behalf on earth.
Oh, this,
She answered,
is so strange to hear, that certainly it proves God's love for thee. Therefore assist me with thy prayers at times. I beg thee by what most thou longest for, if e'er thou tread the soil of Tuscany, that thou among my kin restore my fame. Among that vain folk wilt thou see them there, which hopes in Talamone, and will waste more hope on it than on the Diana quest. But still more will the admirals invest.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 13. Section 48 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 14. Purgatory, the Second Ring, Envy. Valdarno and Romagna in 1300. Instances of punished envy.
Who is this spirit who around our mount is circling thus, ere death have given him flight, and at his will opens and veils his eyes?
I know not who he is, but know he is not alone. Ask thou that nearer art to him, and greet him fairly, so that he may speak.
Two spirits who were leaning on each other thus talked of me upon the right hand there. Then turned their faces up to speak to me, and one said,
Soul that, still held in thy body, toward heaven art going, of thy charity console us now, and tell us whence thou comest and who thou art. For thou dost cause in us such wonder at the grace accorded thee, as that demands which never was before.
And I, a small stream winds through Tuscany, which up in Falterona hath its rise, and is not sated by 100 miles. From somewhere on its banks I bring this body. Vain would it be to tell you who I am, because my name makes no great sound as yet.
If with my mind I rightly penetrate thy meaning.
That one then replied to me, who spoke before.
Thou talkest of the Arno.
Thereat the other spirit said to him,
Why did this man conceal that river's name, as people hide the name of dreadful things?
The shade who had been questioned as to this discharged its duty thus.
I do not know, but meet it is that this vale's name should die. For from its source, where that wild mountain chain, whence severed is Pelorus, swells so greatly that in few places doth it pass that mark, to there where it betakes it to restore whatever from the sea the sky sucks up, whence rivers get what goes along with them, virtue is snake-like as a foe pursued by all, or through the region's evil luck, or through bad customs which incite men there. Hence those that in this wretched valley dwell have changed their natures so, that it would seem that Circe had them in her pasturage. Among foul hogs, of acorns worthier far than of all other food that's fit for man to use, it first directs its sorry path. As down it comes, it afterwards finds curves, that snarl more fiercely than their strength comports, and turns from these its snout aside in scorn. It keeps on falling, and the more it swells, the more that cursed and unlucky ditch finds that the dogs are turning into wolves. Descending then through many a gloomy gorge, foxes it finds, so full of fraud, that naught have they to fear, lest cunning master them. Nor shall I cease to speak, though overheard. And for this man 'twere well, if he recall hereafter what a truthful spirit shows me. Thy grandson I behold, who first becomes a hunter of those wolves upon the banks of that fierce stream, and terrifies them all. He sells their flesh while still alive, then kills them as an old beast he would. Of life depriving many, himself of honor he deprives. He issues bloody from the dismal wood, and leaves it such, that in 1,000 years 'twill not rewood itself as once it was.
As at the announcement of some painful loss, the face of him who listens is disturbed, from wheresoe'er the danger may assail him. Even thus did I behold that other soul, who turned to listen, grow distressed and sad, as soon as he had gathered in that speech. The words of one soul and the other's face had caused me to desire to know their names. Therefore with prayers I mingled this request. That spirit, therefore, who addressed me first, began again,
Thou'dst have me condescend to do for thee what thou for me wilt not. But since God wills that so much of his grace should shine in thee, I'll not be niggardly. Guido del Duca know then that I am, and so consumed by envy was my blood, that had I seen a man becoming happy, livid with envy thou hadst seen me turn. Of what I sowed, I'm reaping now the straw. O human race, why set your heart on things wherein companionship must be forbidden? This is Rinieri. This the honor is and glory of the house of Galbuli, whose worth since him none hath inherited, nor hath his blood alone despoiled itself, tween Po and mountains, Reno and the sea, of those good things which truth and joy require. For in those bounds the country is so full of poison stocks, that only slowly now would they be lessened, even if it were tilled. Were our good Lizio, Arrigo Mainardi, Pier Traversaro, and Guido di Carpigna, Romagnols turned into bastards now? When in Bologna will a Fabra rise? When in Faenza a Bernardine di Fosco, the noble scion of a little plant? Wonder not, Tuscan, if I weep now, when, with Guido da Prata, I recall to mind Ugo Lindazzo, who among us dwelt, Frederic Tignoso and his company, the Traversara house, the Anastagi, and both these families are void of heirs. The ladies and the knights, the toils and ease, which love and courtesy once made us crave, where hearts have grown so bad. O Bretinoro, wherefore not vanish, since thy family, and many people with them, have departed, that guiltless they might be? Bagna Caval, begetting sons no longer, doeth well, but Castracaro ill, and Conio worse, which still takes trouble to beget such counts. Well the Pagani too will fare, when once their demon shall have gone, but not so well that an unspotted fame will e'er remain to them. O Ugolin de Fantali, thy name is safe, since one can now no more be looked for, who as a degenerate can darken it. But go thy way now, Tuscan, for weeping now affords me far more zest than speech. Our talk hath so distressed my mind.
We knew that those dear spirits heard us leaving, and therefore merely by their keeping still they made us trust the path which we were taking. When we, advancing, found ourselves alone, a voice, which seemed like lightning when it cleaves the air, was heard, and as it reached us there, said,
Whosoever findeth me shall slay me.
Then vanished, as when thunder rolls away, if suddenly a cloud be rent apart. Soon as our hearing had a truce from this, behold another with so great a crash, it seemed to be its following thunderclap.
I am a Glaudos, who was turned to stone.
Then, to draw closer to the poet's side, I took a backward, not a forward step. The air was calm on all sides now, when he—
That was the painful bit, which in his bounds should hold a man. But ye take in the bait, and so the ancient adversary's hook draweth you to him. Hence of small avail is either curb or lure. Heaven calleth you, and showing to you its eternal beauties, around you moves, and yet your eyes look down. Hence he who seeth all things scourges you.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 14. Section 49 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 15. Purgatory, the second ring, envy, the angel of generosity. The third ring, anger, instances of gentleness.
Between the third hour's close and day's beginning as much as is apparent of the sphere, which like a child is ever given to play, so much now of its course toward evening seemed remaining to the sun. 'Twas vespers there, and midnight here, and fully on the face its rays were striking us, because the mount had been so circled by us that we now were going on directly toward the west. When, far more blindingly than e'er before, I felt my forehead overcome by splendour, and was bewildered by these unknown things. Over my eyebrows hence I raised my hands, and made myself the screen which, filing off, tempers excessive light in what is seen. As when, from water or a looking-glass, a ray leaps up in the opposite direction, and in the same way mounts that down it came, and from the falling of a stone departs at equal distance to the same extent as both experiment and art reveal. Even so it seemed to me that I was smitten as by a light reflected there before me, because of which my sight was swift to flee. Dear father, what is that, said I, from which I cannot screen my face sufficiently to help me, and which toward us seems to come?
Wonder thou not,
he answered me,
if still heaven's family affect thy sight. An angel is this, who comes to ask us to ascend. It soon will happen that to see such things will be no burden, but as great a joy as nature hath enabled thee to feel.
As soon as we had reached the blessed angel, with joyful voice he said,
Enter from hence a stairway far less steep than were the rest.
We were ascending, having thence departed, when
Blessed Allah, merciful,
was sung behind us, and
rejoice, O thou that winnest.
My teacher then and I, we two alone, were going up, and as we went I thought of how I might get profit from his words, whereat I turned toward him and asked what meant that spirit from Romagna when he mentioned forbidden and companionship in things. Hence he,
Of his worst fault he knows the harm, hence let it not surprise if he therefore rebuke men, that it be lamented less. Because your wishes aim at that wherein each share is lessened through companionship, envy fain moves the bellows for your sighs. If love, though, for the highest sphere of all, were upward turning your desires, that fear would not be in your breast, because the more there are up yonder by whom ours is said, so much more good doth each of them possess, and so much more love in that cloister burns.
I fast much more from being satisfied, said I, than had I silent been at first, and more of doubt I gather in my mind. How can it be then that a good that's shared should make more owners richer with itself than if by but a few it be possessed? And he to me,
Because thou fasten thy mind exclusively on earthly things, thou drawest darkness out of every light. That good, ineffable and infinite, which dwells up yonder, runs as fast to love as to bright bodies comes a ray of light. So much it gives itself as is the warmth it findeth. Hence, as is the extent of love, so much the eternal worth spreads over it. The more there are up there that love each other, the more there are to love, and more the love, and, mirror-like, the more of love each sheds on each. And if my talk sate not thy hunger, thou shalt see Beatrice, and she will fully free thee from this and every other want. Do thou, then, see to it that speedily thou have removed, as 2 already are, the 5 wounds which are closed by causing pain.
wishing to say, Thou satisfiest me, I saw that I had reached the following ring. My fond eyes therefore caused me to keep still. There it appeared to me that I was wrapped in an ecstatic vision all at once, and that within a temple I perceived much people, and a lady at the door, who with the sweet mien of a mother said,
Wherefore, my son, hast thou thus dealt with us? Behold, thy father and I have sought for thee in sorrow.
Here, when she had ceased to speak, that disappeared which had before appeared. Then there appeared another, o'er whose cheeks those tears were streaming down, which grief distills, when born of great resentment toward another, saying,
If thou art master of the city, about whose name there was among the gods such strife, and whence all knowledge sparkles forth, avenge thyself on those audacious arms, Pisistratus, which dared embrace our daughter.
Kindly and gently then that lord appeared to answer her with looks of self-control.
What shall we do to him who hateth us, if he who loves us is by us condemned?
Then folk I saw inflamed by anger's fire, who, bent on killing a young man with stones, cried to each other naught but,
Kill him! Kill!
And him I saw, bowed to the ground in death which now oppressed him. Of his eyes he ere made gates of heaven, and in that anguish prayed the Lord on high with looks which unlock pity, that he his persecutors would forgive. When once my mind returned outside again to those things which outside of it are true, I recognized my not untruthful errors. My leader, who could see that I was acting like one who frees himself from slumber, said,
What aileth thee, that thou canst not stand up, but hast been coming more than half a league, veiling thine eyes, and reeling with thy legs, like one overcome by either wine or sleep?
O my dear father, if thou listen to me, I'll tell thee what it was appeared to me, said I, when I was thus deprived of legs. And he,
If on thy face 100 masks thou hadst, thy thoughts would not be hid from me, however small they were. What thou hast seen was lest thou free thyself from opening up thy heart unto those waters of thy peace, which from the eternal fountain are diffused. I did not ask what ails thee, as would one who looks but with the eye which seeth not, when once the body lies inanimate, but asked it to endow thy feet with strength. So must the indolent be spurred when slow to use their waking time when it returns.
On through the vesper hours we went along, forward intent, as far as e'er our eyes could reach, against the late and shining rays, when lo, a smoke in our direction came little by little, and as dark as night, nor was there any place of shelter from it. This of pure air deprived us and our eyes.
End of Purgatorio, Canto 15. Section 50 of the Divine Comedy by Dante Alighieri, translated by Courtney Langdon. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Purgatorio, Canto 16. Purgatory, the third ring, anger, free will and the corruption of the world.
The gloom of hell, and of a night deprived of every planet, 'neath a narrow sky, darkened as much as possible by clouds, ne'er made so thick a veil before my face, nor to my feeling was so rough in tissue, as was the smoke which covered us up there. For that permitted not of opened eyes, because of which my wise and trusty escort drew near to me, and offered me his shoulder. Even as a blind man walks behind his guide, in order not to go astray, and strike aught that might hurt him, or might even kill. So, going through that foul and bitter air, I listened to my leader, who said only,
Take care that thou be not cut off from me.
Voices I heard, and each appeared to pray for peace and mercy to the Lamb of God, who taketh sins away. Their only prelude was Lamb of God, and all had but one word and intonation, hence among them all there seemed to be the fullest harmony. Are those, then, spirits, teacher, whom I hear? Said I, and he to me,
Thou judgest rightly. As on they go, they loosen anger's knot.
Now who art thou that cleavest thus our smoke, and yet dost speak of us as if thou still by monthly calends wert dividing time?
These words were uttered by a single voice. My teacher therefore said to me,
Reply, and ask him if on this side one goes up.
And I, O creature that dost cleanse thyself, that beautiful thou mayst return to him who made thee, thou'lt hear marvels following me.
I'll follow thee as far as I'm allowed,
he answered.
And, if smoke permit not sight, hearing, instead, will keep us linked together.
I thereupon began, I go on high while in that swathing band which death dissolves, and through the infernal anguish came I here, And whereas God hath wrapped me in his grace so much that he would have me see his court by means entirely out of modern use, conceal not who thou wast before thy death, but tell it me, and whether toward the pass I rightly go, and be thy words our guides.
Lombard I was, and Marco was I called. Familiar with the world, I loved the worth toward which all men have now unbent their bows. For mounting upward, thou art going rightly.
He thus replied, and added,
I beseech thee, pray for me there, when thou shalt be above.
And I to him, I pledge my faith to thee, that what thou askest of me I will do, but with a doubt I'll burst, unless therefrom I free myself. Simple at first, it now is doubled by thy speech, which makes me, here and elsewhere, sure of that wherewith I link it. The world is certainly as wholly void of every virtue as thou tellest me, and is with evil big and overspread. But pray point out its cause, that I may see, and show it unto other men, for one puts it in heaven, another here below. At first he heaved a sigh profound, which grief to
me
changed. Then,
brother,
he began,
the world is blind, and thou indeed comest hence. Ye that are living still attribute upward each cause to heaven alone, as though it moved everything with it of necessity. If this were so, free will would be destroyed within you, and no justice would there be in having joy for good and grief for ill. Heaven starts your inclinations, though I say not all. But even supposing that I did, light has been given to you for good and evil with free will, which, if it endure fatigue in its first fights with heaven, will afterward, if duly nourished, conquer everything, beneath a greater power and better nature ye freely lie, and that creates within you the mind, which heaven hath not in its control. Hence, if the present world go wrong, the cause is in yourselves, and should in you be sought. Of this I'll now a true spy be for thee. Forth from the hand of him who ere it lives delights in it, even like a little maid who weeps and laughs and wantons like a child, issues the simple soul, which knoweth naught, save that, proceeding from a joyous Maker, it gladly turns to that which pleases it. At first it tasteth things of little good; deceived thereby, it runneth after them, unless a guide or check divert its love. Hence, as a bit, a law must needs be set, a king must needs be had, who should at least the tower of the truthful town discern. The laws exist, but who sets hand to them? No one, because the shepherd who precedes can chew the cud, but hath not cloven hoofs. The people hence, who see their guide strive solely for those good things for which it longs itself, feedeth thereon, and asks for nothing more. Well canst thou see that evil leadership, and not that nature in you is corrupt, is what has caused the world to be so wicked. Rome, which once made it good, was wont to have two suns, which rendered visible both roads, that of the world and that of God. One now hath quenched the other. To the bishop's staff the sword is joined, and badly needs must one fare with the other, since, together joined, neither the other fears. Recall to mind, if thou believe me not, the ear of corn, for every grass is by its own seed known. Throughout the country watered by the Po and Adige, one used to find both virtue and courtesy. Ere Frederick had his strife, with safety it can nowadays be crossed by any who, through shame, refrained from speech with good men, or avoided intercourse. There are, indeed, 3 old men still, in whom the old age chides the modern, and who long for God to give them back a better life. Quirado da Palazzo, good Girardo, and Guido da Castello, better called the simple Lombard, as in France he is, say therefore that to-day the Church of Rome, by joining in herself two kinds of rule, falls in the mire, and fouls herself and load.
"O Marco, mine," said I, "thine arguments are good, and now I see why Levi's sons were from inheriting debarred. But which Gerardo is the one, who, as thou sayest, as sample of the people now extinct, remaineth to reproach this savage age?"
"Thy speech deceives or tests me,"
he replied,
"for thou, addressing me in Tuscan speech, seemst not to know who good Girardo was. I know him not by other added name, unless I took it from his daughter Gaia. God keep you, for with you I come no further. Already whitening now, behold the light which rays out through the smoke, and I must go, the angels there, ere I be seen by him."
He thus turned back, nor would he hear me more.
End of Purgatorio Canto 16.
Okay, that was the end of 16, and I'm almost done stuffing the doll, and then I just have hair to do. So I'll probably do that tomorrow. Ah, hey Natcha, how you doing? Can you hear me very well? I don't know if I'm very loud or not. My audio is a little off. Oh, good. I'm glad. This is a doll I made for my landlady, who is Jehovah's Witness. Her friend is living here. Uh-oh, I just shoved my N in there. Anyway, her friend's living here, and it drives her nuts. She's a Jehovah's Witness too, and so I get the daily what this woman does, and my landlady comes down and strangles my poor little horsey. Anyway, so she goes like that for a while, and then she gets her frustrations out, and so I'm making her a doll that she can strangle that kind of looks like the lady that's upstairs. So yeah, she's this other woman is quite we'll say abrasive. I'm being quite nice and fairly politically correct, I guess. So yeah, this is I'm making her a doll to strangle so she doesn't strangle my horsey. Like, come on, who wants to strangle this guy? Come on, hey. Well, my nephew would call him a doggy, but whatever. I've got a big oh, we do all need to vent. And well, my landlady is not she's a JW, but she even thinks this lady's crazy. So it's all kinds of fun. And you just missed Dante's Inferno. Holy crap, is that a long book? It's like terribly long. collecting yarn scraps. Oh, were you? Oh, awesome. Yeah, I usually look up once in a while and see how many people are watching, and it's usually just me. Man, this gal takes a lot of stuff, and I figure since it's not getting sold, I might as well use my scraps. So are you having a great night? This is a bit. Oh, I did it again. Did you see that? I did it again. I shoved the end in there. Let's see. There it is. I gotta use that to sew up the other end, or to sew up the hole. It's about 2 p.m. here, but after my stream earlier with GI, yeah, it's 1:21 a.m. right now. My time zone. I'm kind of weird. I'm in Newfoundland, and it's GMT minus 3:30, which is really weird because the rest of Canada is like minus 4 hours or whatever. What am I still doing up? Oh, I'm a night owl-y kind of person. I'm good at getting up at around 11 and staying awake till about 4 or so. But Mom was here because my uncle was sick, so my sleep schedule got whacked right out of. I was getting up like at the crack of dawn. It was horrible. Like, what kind of crazy person does that? Dawn, come on. So is it nice over there in Australia? I always wanted to go, but I am bad with heat. Anything over about 20 is my eyes are melting and I feel like I'm gonna pass out. So I'm gonna have to figure out how to get to Australia during your winter rather than my summer. Oh. Sleeping in. Yeah, I'm bad for that. I'm not a morning person at all. But come down in winter. Yes. Here we're on a little island. I don't know if you know Canada much, but we're on a little island off the east coast of Canada, and it's fairly mild temperature, I guess. We're I don't know. A lot of time during the winters we don't get it much colder than -5, and then we don't get much warmer than say 25, I guess. So it's nice and it's good temperature for me. I lived in Calgary for a while and it got up to 35 and I was miserable. But I love being back home. It's so nice here. Yeah, I was looking definitely. Yeah, it's I don't know if you've seen any of the pics I posted today or last night. That's the town I grew up in, and I moved away when I was 13, so that was fun. But I always said I was coming home if it killed me, and I'm home now. So yay! I love it here. There's no place like home. I saw the greenery in the stream. I think it was. Oh yeah, that was the where I went on that hike, I believe, and that was yeah. It's beautiful out here. It's not really hot, but I tell you, the ocean isn't all that warm. Even though I'll jump into it. It's It's kind of, it doesn't get warm until like August or September, the ocean. But that's kind of the best time to come anyway, because it's harvest time. And we are like famous for blueberries, and you can buy like a bucket of blueberries for $20 on the side of the road and be munching those as long as you like. It is great. You can chew on some wild berries until you turn purple if you like. So ta-da! I'm done my little... I just have to give her some hair. I give her a scowl too. What do you think? She looks kind of horrific, I think. Yeah. Yeah. Well, this lady like never smiles unless she wants something from you and smiles at you. So, I figured I'd give her a realistic look. I was gonna give her whites on her eyes and stuff, and I'm like, no, this is better. Even give her a dress, 'cause devil horns. Yeah, that would be awesome. I'm thinking about it. Maybe. Gabriel would laugh. My landlady, she would laugh. 'Cause she wasn't always JW. And she's fiercely independent. Like, how does a fiercely independent woman become JW? Like, I don't get it. But anyway. Wow, did I ever make her kind of weird? But hey, it's supposed to be realistic, right? Oh, well. I'm going to cut the stream off now, I guess. And if you want, we can go over to, I don't know, Facebook or something, chat if you like. I'm gonna be all done this. I have nothing to talk about. And mostly the stream's just for me to get used to talking on camera and stuff, and get past that completely awkward kind of gal. I grew up in a town with 25 year-round residents. Like 25. Would you believe? So I had no friends my age. And I was on the beach all the time. Like, who doesn't want to be on the beach all the time anyway? Getting stuck, storms coming in, and I'm having to go tromp through the bush just to get back to the house. That was always fun. Oh no, I made her nose off squished. That's okay. She's kind of squishy-nosed anyway. So I'm gonna... Oh yeah, there's nothing like it. Like I am far, like for me, I'm far away from the ocean right now. It's only about, I don't know, 5 kilometers that away. And but for me, it's like if I cannot walk like within 2 minutes to a beach, it's too far away. Growing up, I lived literally across the road from the beach. In the winter, it snowed so much the house would get buried. We'd climb out of the attic window and take the crazy carpet. I don't know if you have any clue what a crazy carpet is, but it's a plastic sheet, pretty much, a hard plastic sheet, and you just come out the window, sit on this thing, and go whing off onto the beach. So, well, if you want to see some snow, I've got a couple of videos on my Facebook page. But yeah, if you climb out the window and you keep going on And the snow was so deep when I was young that we couldn't go to school for 2 years. Yeah, carpet sled. That's probably. Yeah, that's literally what it's like. It's kind of like a carpet sled, and the you'd climb out the window in the attic, go down the roof, and keep going until you were at the beach, and it would take like 2 hours to walk back. It was crazy, and you'd never go to school for 2 weeks because it was like people can't conceptualize how deep the snow was, but it buried a 2-story house is how deep the snow was. So that's pretty awesome. And if you couldn't do that after the plow went by, so you had to do that before the plow went by, because that would be a big drop. Oh, that was a absolute blast. And now we get, from climate change, we get a maybe a couple of feet. We didn't even get that this year. And it was, they complain about it. It's like, do you even remember what it was like 25, 30 years ago? Like, oh my gosh, I just realized I'm old. It was like 30 years ago and I was already gone. I think she turned out well. But I still have to put hair on her. I'll do that another time. Probably stream tomorrow again. Yeah, it's bad. It's super hot and getting hot. Yes, it is getting hotter. I've noticed that. I've got a few people on my Facebook that are from Australia, and they are just, it's like every time I look at their stuff, it's like my eyes are going to melt off or something. It's pretty awful. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not good with heat. I was living in Calgary, and it's the prairies over by the mountains in Alberta. Actually, I worked in Banff and met a lot of Australians up there. But it was getting up to like 35 degrees really early in the year, like in May, and I couldn't take that anymore. It's just crazy. So I think I'm gonna cut it off now, and like I said, I'll be around. I'm gonna be on Facebook and whatever. So I'm gonna cut it off, and we can chat on Facebook or whatever if you like. But I'm tired of talking. I feel a little rough in the throat. I don't usually talk so much. Well, my dad goes, shh, stop talking. Yeah. Okay, well, you have a wonderful day. What's 2:30? Your day's not even halfway over, I guess. So, and I'll chat with you in a bit here. It's about 1:33. Yay. Okay, have a good night, dear. Bye.